Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Pooja and today we are going to discuss the neural regulation of respiration. Yes, one of the very important topic, that is neural regulation. So there are various types of regulation, especially the neural regulation and chemical regulation of respiration, and both of these topics are very important as far as all the exams are concerned. Before going in the discussion of neural regulation of respiration, I want you to tell about two types of respiration, that there is a voluntary respiration, voluntary type of respiration, and there is involuntary type of respiration, or we can call it as automatic respiration. So voluntary, involuntary, or this is also known as automatic respiration. So there are two types of respiration. Now understand, voluntary is something which you do voluntarily, on which you have control, but this is very for the very brief time. For example, you want to hold your breath, or you are blowing the candles out, or you are inflating the balloon. At that time you control your breathing or respiration. That is the voluntary control. And who gives that voluntary control? Remember that the center which is responsible for voluntary control is cortex, and that is nothing but the motor cortex. Which part of the cortex? That is nothing but the, obviously, the respiration is controlled via various muscles. So that's why we are going to talk in terms of motor cortex. So motor cortex, area number 4 and 6, pre-central gyrus. So this area controls the voluntary respiration. On the other hand, I would like to tell you that this alone will not cause the regulation or control, but yes, there are some inputs. From where these inputs are coming? The first input comes from the limbic system, and the second input to this motor cortex comes from the hypothalamus, and this also has the role in the respiration. So definitely yes, whenever you are anxious, whenever you are having emotional turmoil, definitely that is going to affect your respiration. And not only that, but also the hypothalamus, it controls the various homeostatic functions like temperature and all. So definitely that also can have the effect on the respiration. What about the involuntary or automatic respiration? For the involuntary and automatic respiration, we should know two parts, that is the pons and medulla. The control centers are present in the pons and medulla. The pons, we are further going to divide into upper part of the pons, that is upper pons and lower pons. Upper pons and lower pons. Okay, so this is the kind of overview. Okay, now let's draw a simple diagram. Definitely I will be showing you the exact diagrams which are given in the books, but definitely simple diagrams which we can make in the exams, in the profs, right? They are helpful, very helpful. So my diagram is going to be very simple diagram, right? Suppose the upper part which I drew over here, that is nothing but upper pons, then the lower pons, and this is the medulla. We can say this is the medulla. Okay, so suppose this part is the upper pons. I'll just write in the short, this is lower pons, and suppose this is the medulla. Easy. Upper pons, lower pons, and medulla. Now understand that whatever signals that are going to go from these centers, they're going to go towards the lung. So I'm just drawing the diagram which is depicting the lungs. Okay. So suppose these are the lungs over here, right? Now, who start the respiration? Which is the on-off center of the respiration? That is nothing but the, in the medulla we do have something known as pre-Botzinger complex in the rostroventral medulla. In the rostral part of ventral medulla, we do have something known as pre-Botzinger complex, and we do have DRG and VRG in this medulla also. So suppose this part is VRG, right? Then we do have DRG, and we are having some pre-Botzinger complex. pre-Botzinger complex. So I'll name it out. This is PBC. I'll write it in the short PBC. This is DRG, and the red one is VRG. DRG and VRG. Now understand that the respiration is initiated by this pre-Botzinger complex. So I'll just write the full form over here. Pre-Botzinger complex. The initiation of spontaneous breathing is done by this pre-Botzinger complex, and this sets the rhythm of the respiration, and that's why we call it as the pacemaker of the respiration. Pacemaker cells of the respiration, they are nothing but the pre-Botzinger complex. Okay, how to remember that? Now over here, P is there, right? So pacemaker of respiration, RE, that is a respiration. So I can color it out differently, right? The pacemaker of respiration, you can remember that is a pre-Botzinger complex. Okay, so initiation of respiration is happened due to this pre-Botzinger complex. Okay, now for the continuous respiration, we require the smooth respiration. We require someone to tell our inspiratory muscles, and who will provide the signals to our inspiratory muscles, and that is nothing but the DRG. Now what is the function of DRG? DRG stimulate, they do have eye neurons. DRG, they're having eye neurons, and this I stands for inspiratory neurons. Okay, so as the name suggests, can you guess what they must be doing? Of course, they are the inspiratory neurons, and that's why they are going to go and stimulate the inspiratory muscles. Inspiratory muscles. Okay, so they are going to stimulate the inspiratory muscles. Mainly we do have two muscles during the quiet or resting respiration. That is nothing but the diaphragm, which contributes 75%, and external intercostal, which contributes 25%. Okay, and there is some phenomena that we are going to learn, that is the overdrive phenomena or extra respiratory phenomena. Now I told you that during quiet breathing, that means when you are not putting much of the effort, right, you are resting and you are quiet, so at that time whatever spontaneous breathing occurs, that is due to the pre-Botzinger as well as the DRG, and the expiration occurs passively via just relaxation of the inspiratory muscles, right? So we do not require per se E neuron during quiet respiration, right? The stoppage signal from the eye neuron, that is a signal for expiration, right? So we do not require any E neurons. But let's say you are doing the exercise. In the exercise, you need extra amount of oxygen for the extra amount of energy that is needed by the muscles which are working right now. Okay, and definitely we know that the aerobic metabolism generates more amount of ATP, and that's why we require more amount of oxygen over here. Not only that, but the carbon dioxide which is produced in the body is also at higher level, so we have to do the expiration with the force also, right? For that, what happens that when the chemoreceptors which are sensing the chemicals, right, what they do is they sense that yes, during the exercise more and more oxygen getting utilized. So what will happen to the oxygen level? The oxygen level will fall, the carbon dioxide level will rise, and during the initial phases the anaerobic metabolism is also started, so lactic acid is increased. Indirectly I can say the H plus ions are also increased. So because of these three changes, these three chemical changes, I can say hypoxia, hypercapnia, and increase in the H plus ion in the blood. Because of that, the chemoreceptors are going to sense this and send the signal to the medulla. But they are very strong signals, and that's why there is something known as overdrive phenomena occurs. there is something known as overdrive phenomena occurs. This signal will spill into the VRG also and they activate the VRG. Now understand, in the VRG we do have both the types of neuron, I as well as E type of neurons. And can you guess what is E? Of course, I is inspiratory neurons, so E is expiratory neurons. Okay. Now, how to remember that I type of neurons are present in both? Okay. So I have a mnemonic for you guys, so you can remember via the simple mnemonic dive. Dive. So remember the D and I and V and E. As I told you, for inspiration, in the quiet inspiration also, and even in the forceful inspiration, like in the pranayama and all, right, in that you require the muscle contraction. That means both are active. In both the condition you have to contract the muscle, so that means eye neurons are present in both, but the only eye neurons are present in the DRG. The DRG are having only eye neurons, so D and I go together, and the E type of neurons, they are only present in the VRG. So you can remember the dive mnemonic, that is DRG for eye neurons only, and VRG, which are the only place where the E neurons are located. Okay, and there is the overdrive phenomena. And what is overdrive? Because of the excessive activation or excessive signals that are coming from the chemoreceptor, they spill into the VRG, and during the exercise or during the stressful condition, whenever you require extra amount of oxygen, at that time what is going to happen is the VRG is going to get stimulated, and which will bring about the forceful respiration. Okay, so that is about the VRG and DRG. Let's move into the pons. Now, what about the pons? We divided the pons into two different levels, that is upper pons and lower pons. So you remember P over here, right? So you can remember there is a center which is from P, that is pneumotaxic center. We are talking about the respiration, and in that we do have what thing? We do have the air, right? So that's why I'm just writing a short form over here, that is a pneumotaxic center. And we do have another center which is known as apneustic center. I'm just writing AC over here, PC and AC. Now what is PC and AC? I'll just write the full form over here. The PC is nothing but the pneumotaxic center. Pneumotaxic center, which is present in the upper pons. And the apneustic center, the AC over here, that represents the apneustic center, which is present in the lower pons. Okay, so apneustic center you can remember as PP. Okay, so pneumotaxic center and apneustic center both are present in the pons. Okay, so in the medulla, two things are important for us, that is VRG, DRG, right? And pre-Boltzinger sets the initiation, or they set the pace or the rhythm of the respiration. And in pons we do have two centers, that is the pneumotaxic center and apneustic center. Okay, now what the AC and PC are doing. Now understand, AC, apneustic center, what happens is it stimulates the DRG. The AC is going to stimulate the DRG. Okay, so DRG contains which type of neurons, Bacho? DRG contains I type of neuron, dive, remember? So it contains I type of neuron. That means the apneustic center is actually increasing or helping in the increase of the inspiration, right? So it is stimulating the DRG. What if this inspiration continues for a prolonged time? The alveoli will expand, but after a limit, they are going to burst. We do not want that, right? So that's why there should be some inhibitory signals on this apneustic center. Okay, so when the inspiration reaches through the limit, what happens is this pneumotaxic center keeps the check on the apneustic center and it inhibits the apneustic center. Not only that, I told you that after the limit, the alveoli, they are going to burst, right? Now, how this feedback will go that the alveoli are stretching too much? Simply from the alveolar stretch receptors. So suppose I'm just drawing one alveoli over here. Suppose there are alveoli and the alveoli, the wall of the alveoli contain stretch receptors. From the stretch receptors which are present on the alveoli, the inhibitory signals will be carried via the vagus towards again the apneustic center, and what it should do to the apneustic center. It should inhibit the apneustic center. Why? Because we do not want our alveoli to stretch too much beyond its limit, otherwise they are going to burst, okay, they are going to rupture. So we do not want that, and that's why there are two inhibitory signals which are taking the control or having the control on the apneustic center, right? So it is kind of a feedback, and who carries this feedback? Understand, this is nothing but the 10th nerve, that is the vagus nerve, that is the vagus nerve. Okay, so this over here is the basic overview of the inspiration and expiration. Now understand, whatever signals are going, they are coming down the medulla and stimulating your or inhibiting the alveoli. Okay, so that's how the overview works of the neural regulation of respiration. Now understand, first thing, the chemoreceptor sends the signal to the medulla, right, during, let's say, quiet inspiration and expiration. Now what is going to happen during quiet inspiration and expiration? This medulla will be activated, especially the PVC and DRG, right? And what they are doing is they send the signal to the via the eye neuron, they send the signal towards the inspiratory muscle. The inspiratory muscles start contracting as soon as the inspiratory muscle, let's say diaphragm. So suppose this is a diaphragm. As soon as the diaphragm contracts, the diaphragm goes below. As soon as the external intercostal they contract, what will happen to the rib cage or the thoracic cavity? The thoracic cavity start to expand, right? The rib cage start to move laterally towards outward, slightly upward, and towards forward. Okay, so in three direction this chest cavity or rib cage is going to move with the help of the contraction of the external intercostal, and that is nothing but it moves outward, upward, and slightly forward. Okay, because of that, the anterior-posterior diameter as well as the lateral diameter of the thoracic cavity. Suppose that this is the thoracic cavity. Okay, so suppose this is the thoracic cavity of a person, right? What is going to happen is that when the diaphragm is going to contract, what is going to happen? The vertical diameter will increase, right? And whenever the external intercostal muscle contract, what is going to happen is that the lateral as well as anterior posterior diameter is going to increase. So overall chest cavity increasing its surface area, right? So that's what is needed over here, and because of that, what will happen? That the pressure inside the lung or thoracic cavity, it will fall, right? As soon as pressure falls below the atmospheric pressure, and we know that the lungs are the open system, that means it is directly connected via the trachea and other airways towards the atmosphere. And definitely if the atmosphere is having the, let's say, 760 or 0 mmHg pressure, 0 mmHg is a relative pressure, 760 is the absolute pressure, right? And let's say in the lung you do have 759 absolute or -1 because of this increase in the area, right? What happens is the pressure falls below 0, that is -1. The suction pressure or negative pressure is generated. The air will be sucked into the lungs, or we can say the diffusion will occur, or the movement of the air will occur from high pressure towards low pressure, and the air will come inside. The pressure change occurs first and then the air come inside the lung. Okay, now understand, this is the whole process of inspiration, which is very regulated. It's not the sudden inspiration and sudden expiration, right? It's not like you do not breathe like that. The gradual increase in the signals and gradual decrease in the signals, that allows the smoothing of the respiration, and that is something known as ramp signal. Now understand, the medulla is kind of a on off signal or on off switch of the respiration. Okay, so this is the on off switch. Like suppose you bought new car, okay, and you turn on the FM into that. Okay, we do have FM radios in the cars nowadays. Remember, when you first turn the FM radio on, it is not tuned. It is making the sound, but it is not having the proper tuned channels over there. You have to tune it. Similarly, the medulla, when it start doing the respiration, it is very, very irregular and shallow. The respiration over here is irregular and shallow respiration. Okay. Now, to that FM radio, you need to tune in, right? So for the tuning, we require the pons. Okay, so to make this shallow respiration deep, we need the apneustic center, which is stimulating the eye neurons. Furthermore, right, so it is for the depth of the respiration. So if I ask you what is the role of the apneustic center, it maintains the depth of the respiration. This comes as the MCQ question, that who maintains or who regulates the depth of the respiration? That is none other than the apneustic center. Okay, now if apneustic is causing the eye neurons to stimulate, remember that continuous stimulation of eye neuron, if that occurs, let's say if I draw a diagram over here, suppose this is the irregular respiration, right? Irregular respiration, and I need a proper regulated respiration. This is increasing the depth, plus it is causing the regulation of the tuning of the medulla. But what if I continuously stimulate the apneustic center and there is no inhibition from apneustic center? Then this continuous stimulation of eye neurons will cause the respiration to stop into the inspiration, right? There is no expiration will occur, and this is something called as inspiratory spasm. So over here, the inspiratory spasm will take place, and this inspiratory spasm is also called as apneusis. This is also known as apneusis. Okay, this will lead to apneusis. We do not want our muscles to go in the spasm during inspiration, and that's why we have to have the expiration. So that's why we do have two centers, that is pneumotaxic center as well as the stretch receptors. Okay, so pneumotaxic center, what is its role? It inhibits the apneustic center and take the control over the expiration, right? So mainly its work is to have or control the rate of the respiration via causing the expiration also, right? So who is the control center of the rate of the respiration, or who controls the rate of the respiration? That is none other than the pneumotaxic center. Okay, so if I ask you the question on the depth, it will be apneustic center, but we cannot let the apneustic center work continuously, otherwise the muscle will go in the apneusis. That's why we need the help of the pneumotaxic center, which controls the rate, right? So that's why the regulated controlled respiration is seen when the upper pons, lower pons and medulla, they work together in the collaboration. Okay, so that is the signals. And same thing I want to tell you, we'll learn about the lesions also, and this is the diagram which is given in the guidance, right? So same thing is given in the books, a bit complicated, and we cannot draw this complicated diagram in less amount of time. So yes, make the diagram so that you can draw them in your exam in less time. Okay, so let's see, this is a pneumotaxic center in the upper pons. In the lower pons, we do have apneusin center, that is AC, right? These are the Pontine respiratory groups that are nothing but they are present in the pons, right? This is the DRG, it is shown over here. Now understand that the guidance doesn't mention the pre-Bodzinger complex, rather it says that the DRG only happens to control the pace also, right? So if the pre-Bodzinger complex is not in the option, go with the DRG. If for the pacemaker they ask the question, but nowadays we are following the Ganong. Ganong is the Bible of physiology, so definitely we are going to go with the Ganong. If you do have both the things in the option and they ask you who is the pacemaker, go with the pre-Bodzinger complex. If the pre-Bodzinger by chance it is not there in the option, go with the DRG. Okay, so this is the diagram taken from the guidance, and that's why there is no mention of the three-part single complex, right? So DRG and VRG in the medulla, and you can see that they are going to go towards the, now look over here, this DRG signals are going towards the external intercostal muscle as well as diaphragm, and carefully see over here the VRG is going to go when there is a if you can see, there is an arrow, the red arrow which is shown over here, that the overdrive, whenever the signals are flooded, right, there are much more signals, over stimulation of chemoreceptors when we require more oxygen, and changes in the chemicals are much more, that is hypercapnia, hypoxia, or increase in the H plus ions. Definitely there is an overdrive or spilling of the signals into the VRG. And now look what is happening. Yes, the DRG will be stimulated, which is stimulating the eye neurons, as well as this over here. Because of this, what is happening, there is a stimulation of accessory respiratory muscles as well as the internal intercostal. Now in the respiratory system, remember, the in goes with X and X goes with in. What do you mean by that? When we are going to learn about the flow volume curves, or when we learn about these muscles also, remember, when you cause expiration, internal intercostal will help, it is not external. Okay, and when we cause inspiration, it is the external intercostal will helps. Okay, so that is the inverse correlation. It is not the for the inspiration internal intercostal will work, and expiration intercostal, it is not the case. It is the vice versa, that is for inspiration external intercostal will work, and for the expiration internal intercostal will work. And accessory respiratory muscles such as scalene muscle, sternocleidomastoid muscle, ali nasal muscle, right, then abdominal muscles, all these things are working together to cause the extra amount of respiration. And remember, this happens only and only with the help of VRG and not with the help of DRG. Now remember, the VRG is only and only responsible for the overdrive phenomena. It doesn't have any role in the quiet respiration. In the quiet respiration, only and only the DRG is going to work. Okay, so this is the overview. Then the second diagram, which I took from an article, right? So over here you can see it is not given in the any book, especially in the Genong or Guyton. Now you can see that these are the external intercostal muscle, and over here this is the diaphragm. The DRG is stimulating these two muscles during the quiet respiration. And if you draw the diagram over here, this type of pattern will be seen. Now you can see that the inspiration is not sudden, and it is not decreasing sudden. Understand that this is a ramp like pattern, as if you're looking at the stairs. Okay, you're standing at the lowest position of the staircase and you are looking at the stairs. It is looking like that it is gradually increasing, so that the sudden inspiration and expiration will not occur. Even during the expiration, though the stimulation is stop suddenly, but the relaxation of muscle that occurs gradually, it won't happen suddenly. And that's why we do have, this is known as ramp signals. So the DRG not only helps in the inspiration, but also it causes the smoothing of the respiration. So during the rest, we do have smooth respiration. Okay, and that is because of these ramp signals which are generated by the DRG. Okay, so this is about the ramp signal. Nowadays they ask in the Viva also, right? And another chart I made for you. Oh, look over here, that when we talk about the VRG neuron, they fire. What they do, they causes inspiration. And which inspiration? They causes excessive inspiration. Okay, so this is the excessive or extra amount of inspiration. I can write extra amount of inspiration due to overdrive phenomena. Now as soon as the inspiration is over, now we inhaled extra amount of air inside, so we have to expire also, or exhale that amount of air, right? So VRG also again fire up, and they causes active expiration. As we know already that during quiet respiration, the expiration is due to the passive phenomena. It is not an active phenomena. Why? Because it is just because of the relaxation of the inspiratory muscles and not due to contraction of any expiratory muscle. Okay, and two things occur during quiet expiration. What are the two things that are going to occur during quiet expiration? First thing that occur is that the inspiratory muscles, they relax. So inspiratory muscle, I'll write in the short form, relaxation. And the second thing that occurs is recoil of the alveoli. Now remember, the alveoli, they are made up of elastic structures or elastin fibers. So as soon as the inspiratory muscles stop to contract, definitely it is going to compress the chest wall, and the recoil of the alveoli that is going to take place over there. There is nobody to stretch those elastic fibers. Obviously you stop stretching them, so they will try to return back. What is recoil? Recoil is nothing but the re for re, remember that is returning towards the normal position, returning to normal position or normal shape, right? So this is the recoil of the alveoli, that is nothing but the returning back to its normal position, right? Returning back to its normal position. And for the active expiration, we now require to contract the expiratory muscles also. So there is a discharge from the VRG which will go towards the abdominal as well as internal intercostal muscle. With that, we do contract the sternocleidomastoid and all other muscle which causes the extra expiration. This goes on unless and until we require the extra amount of oxygen. That is nothing but our overdrive phenomena. Now the diagram I showed you, the same diagram is coming over here. That is the pneumotaxic center inhibit the apneustic center, and there are double inhibitions, that is from the pneumotaxic center as well as from the lungs via the vagus, right? Suppose more and more inspiration occurring, more and more stretch will be there on the alveoli, and more signals will go towards the apneustic center, and that's how it is controlled. And that is a role of HB reflex, that is nothing but the hearing brewer reflex, that we'll discuss in the separate video. Okay, now over here, look, apneustic center, it is sending the signals only and only to the DRG. Okay, now what it is doing, that it is stimulating the DRG, right? It is stimulating the DRG, and you can see that the PCO2, when it is the main stimulus for the peripheral chemoreceptor as well as central, so it is main stimulus for the respiration. Increase in the PCO2 causes the stimulation of the DRG from the chemoreceptor. We learned that, right? And there is a reciprocal inhibition. Now what is the reciprocal inhibition? Now remember, there are two things occurring, that whenever the inspiration is taking place, we do not want the expiration to start. Okay, so that's why the I neurons, they inhibit the E neurons, and vice versa, the E neurons, when they are activated, they inhibit the I neurons. Okay, so that is known as reciprocal inhibition. Okay, at a time only one type of neurons will be activated, right? And that's why it brings out the regularity or proper control or smoothing of the respiration. Okay, so this is about the another diagram, and this DRG will carry forward its signals via the bulbospinal pathway. Bulbo means whatever signals which are generated from the brainstem which are going towards the spinal cord. So bulbospinal pathway. Okay, fine. So these are the diagrams that I wanted to show.